I'm Gail Hanlon. Um, my reason for being here is to offer a platform and opportunity for families who want to know more about what to do if if they're not really sure about sending their kids back to school, or whether they want to try something different, some alternative learning maybe. This is a platform for you to ask your questions and help each other with different experiences and ideas, challenges, successes, all of those things. I've put the link on the bottom there so that if you want to jump on and be a guest and let us know what your experiences are with alternative learning. And again, my name is Gail Hamlin. I have been a homeschooler, unschooler, deschooler, world schooler, free schooler for around 30 years. Um, and that's just with my own children. I have my own experiences, independent learning as well. So last week, I came on and showed some wonderful resources. And that is also what I'd like to do today, because sometimes, you don't see what's done before. If you're back for a second time, that's awesome. Um, Everybody's welcome. Please say hi in the comments or ask a question. I know there's a lot of concerns from families that are with the with the announcement the other day about children going back to school, especially in the younger grades, 5 days a week. That might concern a lot of people. So let's go through some of those questions. What are the alternatives? And why would somebody consider them? Well, we've got a lot of whys right now. Parents that I've talked to and have contacted me have said they're they wanted to try doing the curriculum at home from the school, and it started out okay, but then there was a lot of issues and problems, and it just began causing stress in the family. That's not what anybody wants. So learning the type of style of education and type of learning style that your child has, and the temperament that is often a big part of it. Without the surroundings of school, you have your home and your family and your friends. And if your child is social or not so social, you may need to make adjustments. So let's go over some of the terminology and the information that we need to know when it comes to what are the parents' rights. Well, first of all, you can continue having your child at home, and the school boards and the schools will provide you with the curriculum. Now, even if you're not having any problems with that, they may come up, so it's good to know what your options are. If you are experiencing challenges, um, for instance, a battle of wills is not worth it. parents know you have to pick your battles, right? So the words that were used to me by a teacher um, is don't worry about whether they're actually doing the schoolwork, the curriculum, as long as they're doing something. What does that mean? So, one of the things that you need to look at is how you're perceiving things. So, if your child is taking the dog for a walk regularly, that's physical activity. That's phys ed. If your child loves to cook with you and you get them to read the recipe and help you measure the ingredients and cook whatever it is, that involves so many subjects. We are used to all of the natural things in life being chopped up into subjects. And that can disassemble our thinking. How do those things go back together again? And I would love to hear from any of you that are watching. Please say hi, ask a question. I'm here to try and help parents navigate through what's going on right now. So if you have any concerns about uh, how you're going to know that your child is doing the right level of things, these are valid questions that almost every parent has. And there are a number of answers. If you're choosing to stay in the school system and doing your schoolwork at home, that's entirely plausible. What if you work full time? What if you can't be there for your kids if they're in elementary school? Well, there are lots of options. And online and um, in many ways, it's easy to put people together. Currently, I'm working on something to help families and people who are willing to help those families by either having their children come into their home. They might be already homeschooling families. And if you're a homeschooling family that's willing to take somebody else's kids in, that I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to examine the possibility of offering services to families that work full time, if both parents work, if it's a single mom that works outside the home, we can be there for each other. So the resources that I suggest are family members that want to assist you. Um, Seeing if what you've already been doing at home for your work can be extended. Maybe you can work from home for a few days a week instead of the whole time. Um, share some of your challenges, and I'd be happy to help you navigate those. There are a lot of options. Let's see some more. Teachers that are not entirely thrilled about going back to classrooms because the announcements were that children were to stay 3 feet apart from each other, and if they're in grade 4 or more, wearing masks, and the teachers should be 15 feet away from the students. I don't know about you, but it sounds like a rather tenable, untenable situation. Um, so being at home, working full time is a challenge, no question about it. We've all been doing it for a while. Most there've been a few people who are out in the workforce, but we've made those adjustments already part-time. So looking at the alternatives, relatives, friends, neighbors, then there's teachers or educational assistants that really aren't thrilled about going back to work in the school, but still want to make some income and help other families. And yes, that will be a cost. And just like every other homeschooling family for ever, um, home educators do not get government funding. So a lot of families have gone online and found some really great resources. So once you find that neighbor or the aunt or the uncle or the grandparents who want to help you by assisting on the days that you need to be out at work, um, as I said before, home daycare providers also, they're very talented, and a lot of them have ECE. And there you can also ask for a police check and first aid qualifications. You want to be as cautious as ever, of course, but ask around, ask your friends, go on the homeschooling boards on Facebook, the groups, and ask questions. Is there anybody who would be willing to help me continue educating at home while I'm out at work? There are a ton of people out there that have been doing this for a long time, and a lot of them, I would say the majority of them, would love to help. But we do all have different points of view and different learning styles as well. So it's important to get in touch with somebody and get that rapport, ask your questions. It is like interviewing for for anything that anybody that your child's going to be with. You want to make sure that they're safe. So always do your background checks. Um, I'm Now I'm going to switch to some of the options that you have for curriculum. You can use, if you're going to stay in the system, you can avail yourself of their curriculum. And if you're having challenges, ask for help. And it's okay if they're not keeping up with what's assigned. And they will tell you that themselves, because rather than have stress and anxiety in the family over schoolwork, if you go out for a walk and collect different leaves and maybe look up what they are, it's about supporting the children in their learning. And when I say children, I mean children of all ages, because they are naturally curious beings. So one of the free resources that you might want to take an interest and take a look at, if you are not, I would say, even if you are using the school curriculum, which is not required, by the way, if you choose not to stay with the school, you do have the choice, and I was talking about this in the last episode, that you can excuse your child from attendance at school. The Education Act provides for that. And please go back to my first video from last week, and you can get all that information. I'll also put a link in the comments so that you can follow that up and read it for yourself. But you can excuse your child from attendance at school, which means that you are not required at all to have any oversight by the school or the school board or the Ministry of Education. And you can choose your own curriculum, whatever works for your child. So here are some basic ones that are very easily found online. Um, so, okay, I'm just going to pull up this first one here and screen share it. Okay. and you've probably all heard about it already, is Khan Academy, Khan Academy. So here's, here we go. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. I have been using Khan Academy since it very first started with a lot of the kids that I have worked with. So here you can see school's closed. We're here for you with free resources to keep everyone learning. If your child is with a neighbor or a friend or a friend's parent who happens to be working from home or staying home, they can do these types of things together with their friends or with the other with the person in the house. So I always did this with my kids. So I operated a home daycare so that I could stay home for my children and have that um, social aspect for them. In addition to that, I became an owner of a private school that caters to alternative education. So I'm happy to provide more information on that if you're interested. So first of all, like I said, Khan Academy is an excellent resource. I'm just going to show you over here, and it is free. Again, they do accept donations, which is great, but you literally have access to pre-K to college, university, everything, life skills, economics, computing, science, arts and humanities, reading and languages, and language arts, test preparation, the SATs, the LSATs, uh, everything there, biology, chemistry, physics. You can cover everything with Khan Academy. And then and I see a bunch of people watching. That's great. Please don't hesitate to put your questions in the comments because I'm delighted to help people with their resources. So another resource that I would suggest is an option. Always look at all the options. And before you start that, I want you to do me a favor. This has been such an interesting time. Hey, Michelle. Um, okay, well, all my sound things are going. I don't know. You seem to have a problem hearing me last time, too. Yeah, but that's weird. It should be just fine. Um, and I don't know why it would be. I'm going to check my settings here as well. I am on my internal microphone. Yeah, so it may just be your computer. Um, do you want to type in the comments and say it may be just hers? Okay, so to continue on, what I was going to say was to first, it's been an interesting time. You need to relax, relax, and then relax some more because what is going on is different. It's unlike anything you've known before, perhaps. Homeschoolers and private schools were easily adaptable because they tend to be ready for anything with minds and eyes open, waiting for that next adventure. For myself, I want to say my goal was never to teach my kids stuff. Even in my daycare or in the school that I took over in 1996, the students that I always had, and have to this day. I try to help them learn how to learn. Because if they know how to learn and if they're confident and capable in learning how to learn, um, they can adapt to any situation that they're faced with. For example, a student once asked me, I want to be a marine biologist. How do I do that? What criteria do I need to follow? What do I need? What courses am I going to need? She was 12. And I said, well, first of all, you start by being a marine biologist. She had access to a local pond in her neighborhood. And I said, start by gathering as much information as you can. Go to the pond, and sit and observe. Watch. Watch what's going on. Look at the animals, the water. Just pay attention to everything that's going on. And you'll know if your children are super interested in something by what they gravitate to most. Now, I've described it before as oh, Ali, you can't hear me either. I don't know if you can. They should be able to.
I could a minute ago.
Oh, Ali can hear me. That's right. Sorry, Ali. Good to see you, Ali. Hi. So being able to pay attention to your children and see what they are interested in. What is it that gives them joy? Because I don't know a parent that doesn't want to see their child joyful and learning. Anything they're doing, learning. They're learning all the time. They started learning the language right in the womb. They heard you, and they now can speak because you taught them that. You didn't even know you didn't need a curriculum to teach them how to speak. You didn't need an outline or a hamburger chart to teach them how to use a knife and fork or to teach them to look both ways before they cross the street. You have been their best, most qualified teacher because you are emotionally invested in your child's happiness and growth. Remember that. You do not have to be everything. If your child comes to you and says, how do we do this? Or how do I do that? And you don't know, say it. I don't know. Let's go find out. And then you teach your child how to find the answers that they're looking for. Now, 30 years ago, I used the internet just as it was beginning, but we didn't have the type of resources that you have at your fingertips now. What is available online is amazing. So, getting to know your children, and I often um, relate this, and I know people might have an issue with it, but Caesar, the dog whisperer, he never changed the dogs. He helped the families change to be better pet owners. And so with your children, we don't need your children to change. You don't need your children to change. You need to adapt and see what they're doing. Now, yes, they should have a schedule. All kids do much better with a schedule, but there are some kids who are much better without it. So having a bedtime is great and it is good, but if it's hard and fast and immovable, then it's going to cause issues. A flexible schedule for anybody, because something might come up. I had a 9-year old once that was living with me, and she wanted to do algebra. She was never interested in math in any way, shape, or form. But when she saw this game that one of the older kids was playing, and it was an algebra game, she wanted to play that game. So I said, sure. So she learned algebra before she learned basic math. because she wanted to. And it was 10 o'clock at night, and she's like, hey, can I do my algebra? Sure, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you from learning at a time that is when you will retain that information. So I'm going to head over to another another place that another curriculum style. So, and I'm going to share this also as soon as I click on it here. Because there are different learning styles, and getting to know your child means that you will be able to recognize different materials that will suit your child better. Alrighty, let me show this in the stream now and switch out here. Konos. Cannot say enough good about Konos. If your child is a kinesthetic or hands-on learner, this program is unquestionably the best. And the and yes, it's from America, from the United States. But I'm going to show you some of the, oh, and they've got a sale on. It's very much hands-on. So these are excellent examples of kids being motivated and presenting things to their family and being active. So kids that are tactile, that need to feel what they're learning, this is a fantastic opportunity for them. Oh, that's great. um, One of my favorite things from the Konos curriculum is learning about the inner ear. And they use only things that you would find already in your kitchen. And you use a table like your dining room table or your kitchen table as the ear. And you hang different things in different places to demonstrate how sound moves through the human ear. So there are the elementary, high school timelines, homeschool mentor, and the blogs, of course. So there's all sorts of information. Now, you will find a ton of resources online. These are just ones that I have some experience with. Um, some people will want things that are Christian focused. So Konos is godly focus, hands-on unit, discovery learning for all kids. It's I would look at it even if you are not interested in anything spiritual, because that's not the primary uh, goal of this. The functionality of it and the educational parts are usable no matter what. Okay, so let's go back to any questions. Okay, I have a question. So can I do part school and part at home? Yes, yes, you can. Um, the schools, depending on which school you're with, that would be a discussion if you're staying within the system to have with them. You may be able to send your children 1 or 2 days, even. That may be an alternative. I can't speak for the schools, but it's never hurts to ask. If you are excusing your children from school and using your own curriculum. Okay, let's get something else here that I will help you with. Um, yes, absolutely. Being able to ask those people that I was talking about, the homeschoolers, daycare providers, friends, relatives, neighbors, um, teachers that may not be going back. Ask around your connections. Post on one of the Facebook groups. The on oh gosh, there's the best kept secrets um, page. There's a number of different pages on groups and pages on Facebook and other platforms. If you're not on Facebook, I know I'm streaming live to YouTube as well right now. So if you're watching this and not on Facebook, there are still a ton of options for connecting with people on a Reddit for the homeschooling, for your oh gosh, Reddit, and there's a couple of others, and I'll list them all in the resources. Um, okay, Michelle said she tried doing part home and part school, and she got a big hassle from the principal and the teacher. Yes, and I can explain why that is, but I also have to say that there are some principals and some teachers who are flexible, and so it's not necessarily it's not a white, don't paint everybody with the same white brush, because different people, it's an opinion, it's whatever that person has. um, nice. um, okay, so part on, part off, it's still the half glasses, glass is half empty or half full. It's a glass. It's 100% full all the time. Even if it's half full of water, the other half is filled with air. That counts. So it's a whole. So whether you're doing a bit here and a bit there, it is the whole, and it is your child or children, and getting your kids to work together on things may be a challenge. Maybe they have totally different dynamics and totally different interests, but paying attention to them and learning what they are like and what they like to do is primary. Okay. Yes, Michelle, very, very true. You have to stick to your guns. Once you have spent the time um, to learn who your child is, because if your child's been in school since they were in kindergarten, let's say, you became a different person to your child. Your parent, but the person they learn from is at school. And so they might resist learning from you. They might resist learning altogether because it's not what they were expecting, or it's all been stuff that they're not interested in. One of, well, the highest number of uh, teen suicides is um, the highest number of suicides is from teens in school. Um, a lot of the uh, the situations that lead up to that is that they have this natural love of learning. They love learning, and then it's compartmentalized, and then it's told to them, you have to do this at this time and this at this time. When you do even it out and allow them to learn at their own pace and in their own direction, they will learn faster, retain more, and be able to use those skills more. Um, don't underestimate your kids. There are numerous counts. I think um, there have been so many kids, 12 and up, that have started their own businesses. That's why LinkedIn, their age base for having a LinkedIn um, account is 13. So obviously, there are forward thinking teenagers. And if you have glanced at TikTok businesses, they are not all older kids. These are young kids making a lot of money on their businesses, helping each other on TikTok. It's not just all dancing funny things and doing funny jokes. It's There's a lot more in there, and I'm not going to get into the questionableness of where it comes from, um, and what the purpose is and all that, but you can decide for yourself. Um, okay, so I'm going to go back to a really important document that I think every single one of you should read, because the point is to get as much information as possible to make a conscious decision that you can then say, yes, I thought about it and I investigated it, and not just doing it because somebody else told you to do it. Um, it's the same way you're going to be helping your kids learn and decipher, okay, everything's available on the internet, but what do I believe? We need to help them learn where things come from, the sources. What is the motivation or the bias behind somebody who's posted something? Because that may be important. It may not eliminate the value of what's being promoted, but it may. And so being able to distinguish between that and something reliable, and even reliable sources, you have to be careful. Um, all right, so we are looking at the Teenage Liberation Handbook. And if you do type in the Teenage Liberation Handbook and then put PDF at the end, which is all I'm doing to find it, and I'm going to pull it up here. Teenage Liberation Handbook. This is my main go-to. Let me just bounce out here and make this a bit bigger. No. Whoops, it made my other screen bigger. I have to click on this one. Okay, let's make this one bigger. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go back and. Ah. Okay. Now, the reason why this book is so good, and it is being re-released next year, and revised, but not the important parts. Um, Truth is truth, right? So, Teenage Liberation Handbook: How to Quit School and Get a Real Life and Education. You want to go first to Chapter 7, which here is on page 74. And last week we read the first part. This week I want to go down a bit and talk about um, this part here. But my school has a good choir. I live to play football. What about me? I want to be Miss Drill Team or whatever. They have so many activities right now in schools, the football and everything. Um, where do we find that? Well, We won't know entirely because schools have been told that they're not to offer things that have excessive exhalation. So there won't be choir in the same way that we've known it before. But there are groups that are doing things outside of school and um, just reaching out to the homeschool communities, reaching out to um, your neighborhood information centers. So, for instance, um, there's a few, the Niagara events on Facebook. Um, there's a lot of different programs and more programs will be starting up again. So while gyms are opening, it's going to look a little different, but you will still be able to get that type of social activity just in a different way. So, and we don't all know what that is because people haven't created it yet and it hasn't necessarily been proven yet. So we want to keep safe. Um, Now, continuing on with this chapter, it's so good. But I love outsmarting authority. There is no end of outsmarting authority. You can, there are worthier causes than school to outsmart. Outsmart the big businesses who destroy rainforest and ozone. We have seen that so much recently, the last year, um, with young people fighting for what is right. And so that kind of thing, that's where you want to put your energies in, is learning. Maybe social justice is what your child is interested in. Um, and that may be something that you had never planned. So, okay. Then the next chapter that you want to go to is, I think it's 120. It's chapter 12. And it's called The Vacation, the importance of the vacation. Now, pretty much everybody the last 6 months has been the importance of the vacation, but only if you're doing it right. And that means not recreating school at home, getting to know your children. Before you start your new life, you have to let go of the old one. Um, Being able to regain that natural love of learning, and you will regain that natural love of learning when you start having fun with other things, and um, and taking the time that you need to explore those things. In the middle of something you're interested in, if somebody came along and rang a bell and made you move to another seat in your house, you would be like, but wait a minute, I'm just in the middle of doing something. But that's what kids in the system have been having done to them forever, because it's actually based, if you do the research, it's not coming just from me, on Pavlov's dogs and the bell to make the dog salivate. That bell in between classes was used to change, to stop the kids from thinking, to go to the next event, the next classroom. So there are psychological methods being used that people have forgotten about, or have not ever known. There are a lot of good people in the system. They do their jobs admirably and they know their stuff and they want what's best. But if all they're doing is reading their job description and not investigating what parents' rights are and what is in the best interest of the child, which might differ between a parent and a teacher. So always being aware. Um, if you don't know, Canada, the Canadian public school system, the government taking over the school and beginning to be in charge of the schools, only happened in 1871 in Canada. We had schools before that, but they were managed by the locations and different charities and churches, and they were they weren't government institutions. So 1871, not too long ago. Okay, now I want to move on to another resource that has been around since 1977. It is John Holt's. Oh, bye.
Have a day.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be late for you tonight, right? My daughter leaving for work. Yes, I am live. So, my youngest daughter leaving for work. Youngest of five, and one boy just, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. John Holt. Growing Without Schooling. GWS. Here it is. John Holt. Growing Without Schooling. Since 1977, these magazines were put out, and fabulous content. You can now get volumes of them, of the back issues. John Holt wrote How Children Learn, also How Children Fail. And Pat Ferranga is the gentleman who now manages John Holt Society. They have a phenomenal YouTube channel. So let's go to YouTube. And I'm just going to pull that down for a second because you never know what's going to pop up when you're scrolling, right? YouTube and Growing Without Schooling. If you're curious about some of the terminology, homeschoolers tend to be a little, right now, homeschoolers do not think everybody's become homeschoolers over COVID. They have become quarantine schoolers. They're doing school at home, but they're not considering them the same realm as homeschoolers, because homeschoolers are a different breed altogether. Growing without schooling. Now, also, I'm just gonna, the primary resource for families who want to know more about educating at home is the Ontario Federation of Teaching Parents. And I'll go to that after we do a little bit on Growing Without Schooling. On Ontario. There we go. Okay. So on the Growing Without Schooling YouTube channel, which is here, logging in now. Passwords. Okay, that should do it. And again, if anybody would like to be my guest on the show, here is the link to join me on the screen and ask some questions. I would love this to be a dialogue with people. So here is Growing Without Schooling YouTube channel. And let's see. if I can, okay, videos, there we go. I'm just gonna pick one here. This one looks good. The value of solitude. I don't know that you'll be able to hear that. So if I share this and copy that and input this, oh, that's not it. Bear with me. Media link. Here's the link. Push that to the staging area. Bring this up. Hide me. Okay, now you'll be able to hear it.
Part 2 of GWS 111's Focus on the Value of Solitude. From Alec Young, Georgia. Spending time alone not only gives me time to reflect,
which allows me to know myself better, but it helps me engage more fully in social situations. When I'm playing basketball alone, I see areas in which I need to improve without worrying about what someone else sees or thinks of me. When I'm alone, I tend to concentrate on my weaknesses. If I'm competing at all, I'm competing with myself. Then, when I'm playing basketball in a group, I need to show off my best stuff so that I will be picked for the next 3-on-3 game. I believe that playing with others is just as important. I see new weaknesses that I need to work on next time I'm doing drills by myself. I'm challenged by new styles of play. I'm surprised by new moves and ideas. But all of this is even more fun because I have already taken the time alone to observe my game and work on it so that I am a better player. This is not only true with basketball. By being alone and thinking through a subject or problem or project, I form a more honest opinion or plan than I might in a group. When I'm alone, I'm not intimidated by other ideas. However, it is also important to exchange ideas, to hear different perspectives, and see different ways of looking at things. But I'm a more articulate participant if I've had the time to think the topic through on my own. When I'm starting a new pottery project, I need time alone to design, measure, and make any necessary stencils to work out the problems of construction. Then, when I'm in the studio constructing the piece, I like to have other people around. I like to hear their suggestions and ideas. I like to see what they're making. If someone comments on my work, it might send me in a completely different direction.
Okay, so you get the idea. There's an excellent article, which I am also going to post, called The Art of Doing Nothing. This is probably one of the most important aspects of the transition from school to independent learning. A schooling is not the same as an education. School is not the same as learning. In school, 90% of the work is already done. Somebody else researched everything and decided what you should know, when you should know it, and how you should know it. When you're independently learning, you do all of that work. And it is honestly the truth that I have had kids say to me in the middle of the vacation part, which you'll learn about from Grace Llewellyn's book, The Teenage Liberation Handbook, that vacation that we were talking about, is that it takes between 3 to 6 months usually for somebody who's been in the system to de-school and allow their brain to start really thinking again. And one student, or actually two students, have said to me, you know what, I want to go back to school. And we asked them why. And the answer was, because I don't have to think for myself there. I just do what they tell me. Think about that. I don't have to think. It's easy. I don't have to think for myself. I just do what they tell me. Is that the way you want your child to think? Would that be an aspiration for of you for your child? So eventually it was decided that no, the parents chose not to put their child back in school because of that answer. And we talked through that decision making process with the student. And we're lucky enough to help him find something that he really loved and was able to be absolutely passionate about. But this is the thing, sometimes when something's difficult, we may have that, oh, I just give up. But how do we learn perseverance if we aren't given the encouragement? It's not the same as forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do. And it will be a different situation. If a child is homeschooling and says, I want to see what school's like, most parents will let them try it. And they tend to do very well, even though they've never had any part of any curriculum before. So I'm happy to answer any questions or help direct you to where you can find the answers to your questions about alternative learning and being taking control of your children's education. So my last thing here is sharing the screen for the Ontario Federation of Teaching Parents. This is a primary resource. And indeed, they have an excellent section here. Well, first of all, at the top, Ontario Federation of Teaching Parents here to help you. If you want to find local resources, events, support groups, there's a button there for Start Here. What do I need to do to start homeschooling my kids in Ontario? Excellent, excellent article. And yes, parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. One of the things I didn't mention in the show last week was about the term compulsory education. Compulsory education is probably not what you think it means. Most people that I ask, what do you think compulsory education means that they say that it means that you have to have your kids, you're compelled to send your kids to school. That is not what it means. Compulsory education means that the state or the government is compelled to provide education for its citizens, not the other way around. Not that the citizens are compelled to take advantage of or use or be a part of that education system that the government provides. So that's the thought I'm going to leave you with today. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you, everybody, on watching the live stream on both YouTube and Facebook. And please enter your comments, questions, anything into the comments, and I will answer every one of them. Thank you again, and I hope you have a beautiful day. And if you're interested in learning more, I will be back here next Friday at 3 o'clock.